Morning, everyone. I'm here with Kerry today from the Sunset Plan. She's going to tell us a little bit about the service that she provides and what she can do to help you. So, if you'd like to introduce yourself, Kerry, and just tell us a bit about what you do and how you started the Sunset Plan, if that's okay.
Brilliant. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. So I'm Kerry and I founded the Sunset Plan back in early 2020. Poor timing, just before COVID hit. I've been thinking about starting a solution basically for end of life planning after losing a relative the year before. When my relative had passed away, prior to that, they'd been really poorly for quite a long time, and a will was in place, and medical healthcare matters were discussed, but not much else. And it was only after he passed away, trying to trawl through the mountain of admin to kind of bring closure to his life, actually took best part of 18 months, which was probably quite unexpected. And I tried to support my family by looking for online information and resources to kind of help us, because it's not something you do every day, sort of tying up someone's life after they've passed away. A lot of the information online I came across was what to do with a will, how to apply for probate, those bigger headline tasks, which is really helpful. But in terms of the everything else that's left behind, the idea played on my mind for quite a long time to think, why don't we have these discussions and why don't we plan ahead as part of our normal life? We plan for education, weddings, buying properties, but we never really sort of plan for the end because it's just not something that we're comfortable doing, I guess. So the idea played for quite a long time, and then I decided to take the plunge and created the Sunset Plan. And the idea is all about planning ahead for those practical details, big, small decisions, wishes, documents, getting it all tied together, ready for whenever it's needed to help your loved ones be able to smoothly deal with matters so they can concentrate on looking after themselves while they're grieving for a loss.
I find it absolutely fascinating, and we've had conversations over email, and I've said to you about how I kind of need to get in contact with you to sort things out, because things like passwords, etc., for social media, online banking, all of those different things, you know you don't really think about things like that, do you, when you're talking about your will, etc. So if if I was to say to you today, Kerry, I've got absolutely nothing in place at all for end of life, what would you say are the most important things that I need to come off you now and start doing?
I would say, number one, I think absolutely will, lasting power of attorney, definitely they need to be arranged. I think then to sit underneath that is decide a way that you're most comfortable with capturing all of that information. So, the fundamental products that we offer at the Sunset Plan are ways to capture all that information. So, number one, we have a flagship digital vault service, which is free to register for an account. There is a premium plan available, which is just a small extra monthly charge if you wanted to go for the premium plan. Within that digital vault, it's ultra secure, bank grade security, lots of information on our website about it, and explainer videos. And what the vault does is it breaks life down into 6 headings. So it'll be about me, legal, financial, end of life wishes. And what you do is you go into each of those sections and you capture all your information. Now, this is something that's not going to be done in a short space of time. It's something that you need to take a bit of time doing, and you'll constantly add to it and you'll constantly change information. But within each of those sections, you have the ability to upload documents. So, for example, the part about pensions, you could upload your latest pension statement so someone would know how to access that in the future. You can restrict access to sharing that information now throughout life, or you can restrict it to sharing after you pass away. So if you didn't want anyone to see any of this information, you could make sure it was tied and secure until after you pass away. Now, I appreciate not everyone likes to keep everything online, so we also offer a PDF download that you can, it's £4.95 for that. That's something where it gives you that same structure, but you can fill in the information, store it on your own device. Or third option we offer is a beautiful colour printed booklet for those that prefer to keep everything offline. So the booklet is a fully structured way to start thinking about all the different aspects of life and future decisions. You can scribble in, slot in your documents, and then keep it somewhere safe in your home. So that's a really good way to capture all of that information in a way that suits you, depending on your preference. And again, it's something that you can keep coming back to and changing as much as your life changes, your wishes, your decisions change. But I think it's capturing that tiny detail that sometimes you only keep in your head. So, for example, talking about passwords, most of our phones nowadays are operated by your thumb. Now, I keep saying to my husband, when I pass away, chop my thumb off because you're going to need it to get in my phone, because that's the way we live. We kind of have everything auto storage of passwords. And again, I suppose people nowadays, we don't all live next door to our families. We're all spread across the UK or spread across the world. And, something that we come across a lot is families that say, my mum's passed away and she's in Scotland. I can't get to her. How do I access all this information? Whereas really, this is where this kind of these products rather come into their own, because when you're really struggling to deal with the loss and you've still got normal life going on in the background and you're having to potentially travel, go into someone else's home and start picking up the pieces, where do you begin? And it's not a conversation that people like to have when they're visiting their family of, oh, if I need to come and see you next time, where do I get your bank statements? Or how do I access the stop tap in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Just not something we kind of think about, but it's part of life. And I think it's having that thought of, yes, plan ahead. It's not something you can do in a day, but again, don't be afraid of the conversation. Just because you start planning doesn't mean you're going to get struck down tomorrow. It's that kind of reassuring people. It's just a normal part of life to plan for.
Yeah, and I guess as well, on another side of things, how many people kind of have safes and stuff like that at home. So if you were to have, flood damage or fire or whatever it is, then
Exactly.
you've still got access to all of those pieces of or documents or whatever it is that you keep your information on. And my dad always does it. They've just popped off on holidays now, and he's like, the our will is in XYZ, and this is what you need. And I'm like, Dad, I take absolutely no notice of him when he's saying things like that, because like you say, it's not the conversation really that you want to be having with the people you love, is it? But I mean, I think you could even do something like this without anybody knowing, really, couldn't you? And perhaps tell one confidant or whatever it is, somebody like a family friend or whatever, if your family don't want to talk about it. But I just think it's a absolutely genius idea that everything is stored online
I
in one
think,
digital vault.
yeah, I think our society's changing as well. We have a lot of people don't have children, don't have family, are estranged from their family, or we have a lot of complex families where I hear a lot where, but that's what dad would have wanted. Well, I don't think that's what dad would have wanted.
Oh
And it's
yeah,
at that point where you're at the most raw point of you've just lost someone and you're having to, within 24 hours potentially, you're having to plan that funeral. What did they want? Conflicting opinions. Who's going to pay? Where were they? And you hear all the time. I think that's what they would have wanted. Now, I'm always seen as a bit morbid, really, because I'm saying, at my funeral, I want this, da da da, and I wouldn't want sad music. And,
yeah.
it's about making it light-hearted, I think. But again, it's coming back to that. We live in such different times now, and traditionally, it would have always been sort of maybe a parent or the next relative that would have done it, and that you all live down the street from each other, so it's easier just to bob in and get. We're in a time now that actually, if you're trying to access someone's accounts after they've passed away, unless you've got a copy of the will that says you're executor, or there are certain things that mean you can't actually just quickly pick up the pieces. GDPR steps in, and it's banks have got a responsibility and different services have got a responsibility to check that actually it is okay for you to go and draw, the contents out of that account because sibling might think otherwise. So it gets so complicated. So a lot of people have said planning ahead, whether they share it now with people or not, gives them that peace of mind that in the future they will hopefully avoid some of that conflict, make sure their wishes are followed, and everything's easy for people, not starting this whole treasure hunt of, well, I think they had life insurance. We kind of, I hear from families who, I think my husband made provision for us, but I can't access anything. Well, they might have been paying into a life insurance with the intention that I know my wife and children will be cared for financially when I pass away. If no one knows where it is, it's kind of a bit of a pointless, there's so much money unclaimed in bank accounts and services over the whole of the world. And you just think that money's been earmarked for a reason, but it's not accessible. So it's kind of, it becomes a bit of a minefield when you start thinking, you think, oh, it's too much to start planning for. And I think the key message for me is just start to think about it and
Yeah.
then explore what option suits and then break it down. And it's not something you have to do in a day. That's where we step in and kind of we can either offer the products and you do it yourself. I offer where I can support people through what to plan from like a very like surface level or a bit more detailed. So yeah, that's what we're all about.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question. I think, maybe people listening to this are like, oh gosh, how easy is it to set up? So, you know, if somebody was to come over now to your website, is you were there as well to provide guidance through the whole process, or that, they needn't be afraid of that.
Absolutely. So, in terms of the self-service product, so the PDF instant download, we do it in colour and black and white. So, if there are any, for visual support, the booklet again, that's available in the UK. That's a really nice way of, for those that prefer to keep it in the home. Digital Vault is instant to set up, and again, the vault is powered by a company called Legado. They have huge backing from investment banks and insurance platforms, so you can, your information is absolutely safe. And there's more detail on the security on the website. It's two-factor authentication, and that's something that you could just set up the account and then do nothing with because it's free. So you could sit up, set the account, get that registered today, and then go, I'll come back to this another day. And then the next time you get your car insurance document, do you know what? I'm going to save that in my vault because actually the vault is not necessarily just an end of life planning platform. It's a life organisation platform. So if you've got a busy family and you've got documents, well, I think I've got the car insurance in my emails, but the MOT is in his email account. Well, where do I get this? Why not pop it all into your vault? And it can be a normal day-to-day life planning solution. So everything's tidy in one place. And then you can just add to that as you go. And it's such a simple platform. It's very easy to use, very nice. It flows really easily, and that's something that you can kind of keep coming back to as something changes or you want to upload something. And again, at the bottom there are a lot of prompts where it says, "Have you got your will? Have you thought about funeral plans? What about your whatever it may be?" It's also a really good service as well for small business owners, big business owners, because you know Sunset Plan, it's just me, just Kerry. If anything happened to me, actually, the business goes with me. So it's all on me. So it's a really good place to kind of store that kind of information as well. So, someone else could pick up the pieces. But yeah, so I would say if someone wanted that more support, I don't know where to start. I haven't got a clue. I also offer one-to-one services through Zoom or by telephone or in person if it's North West Wales, to kind of help people plan through that. I also offer additional services through will writing, funeral plans, lasting power of attorneys. So if there are any gaps and someone would want to use my services to plug those gaps, more than happy to offer that as well.
Oh, that's fantastic, Eddie. That's been a real great insight actually into something like we say that most people tend to put off and never ever get done. So it's one of those things like you say you can just keep coming back to and adding to.
Yeah,
So
I think the key is to not get overwhelmed by it because it is a big, scary subject. But I think the more people start to have that gentle conversation with themselves and with their family, I think a lot of people have said it actually once they've got things sorted and boxed off. It's like your travel insurance or your car insurance or whatever it may be. Once you've got it sorted, you just leave it on the side. You're not going to have a car crash the next day because you've bought car insurance. But
yeah,
it's that peace
yeah,
of mind of knowing it's sorted, it's done. I haven't got to think about that now. And I think a lot of people look now how complicated things are, or how, complicated family life can be, and sort of have that peace of mind of going, I know that when the time comes, I'm not going to leave a burden, or I'm not going to leave confusion, or whatever it may
Yeah,
be. So it's just breaking it down. And if you know that someone, the other thing I try to do with the Sunset Plan is make it a bit more colourful and a bit more, making it a bit more real. So again, on social media platforms, if anyone wants to have a look at me, I'm at the Sunset Plan. That's a really good way of, maybe, if you see a post on there that's a little bit more light-hearted, or there's a specific aspect that you think, yeah, Mum's got a caravan, and how would I even start to deal with that? When I put on there, like, say, holiday post, what to do with your holiday home, second home, buy to let, share that with someone, and just kind of, that's a nice little way of going, this is a bit more sunshiny as to, thinking ahead. So again, use that kind of content to share if you feel it's a bit of a tricky subject to broach yourself. Hopefully our stuff is a little bit more, not so doom and gloom and sort of, oh, the Grim Reaper's here again, she's on about end of life.
oh, that's brilliant, Kerry. Thank you so much for taking us through that today. I'm sure it's going to be helpful for people, and there's going to be people out there who don't realise that services like this exist as well. So it's just about educating people really about what's out there, and like you say, making it easier for people when it comes to discussing things like this. But thank you so much today for speaking to me. And hopefully we'll be able to speak to each other face to face at some point.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much for
Fantastic.
having me.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Kerry.
Thank
Thank
you. Speak
you.
soon. Bye.
Bye.